This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're looking at the Asus MeMO Pad Smart 10 model ME301T. Yes, it's written like Memo, but Asus says to pronounce it like MeMO. A little bit weird there. But anyway, this is their very affordable 10.1-inch Android tablet, $299. And wow, for a name brand tablet at that price with these specs, I'm pretty impressed. This is an IPS display for wide viewing angles, sharpness, decent brightness on it as well. You get an NVidia Tegra 3 quad-core CPU inside, USB host capability, HDMI out, Giga RAM, fast processor, 1.3 pounds, a little bit less, very thin, 9.9 millimeters. Available 3 colors. We have the blue one right here. Plastic back, nothing too fancy, but still, for the money, if you're looking for a tablet and you don't have to have the very best specs and everything, this will get the job done and get it done well. And we're going to look at it now. So the Asus MeMO Pad has pretty much everything you would want from a mobile OS tablet. 10.1-inch IPS display, 350 nits of brightness, wide viewing angles. Yes, it's not as bright as the Transform Infinity TF700, but then again, it's also a lot cheaper, and most of us never need 600 nits of brightness, to be honest. You've got NVIDIA Tegra 3 CPU in here, 1.3 gigahertz maximum speed, 1.2 gigahertz when multiple cores are running. GeForce graphics inside for good gaming. Tegra Zone games, you get the full effects, the water effects, all those neat things. Giga RAM, 16 gigs of internal storage. A micro SD card slot that is compatible with SDXC cards. USB, micro USB port, that's where you're going to plug in to charge and to sync. And it also supports USB host with the USB on-the-go host cable. We'll show you using that. And we've got Android OS 4.1.1 Jelly Bean on board. That's nice. Not many tablets are shipping with Jelly Bean yet, so that you've got it right here. And overall, it's a quick tablet, and Asus has done a good job of addressing shortcomings from previous models. They really are pretty quick. We've seen that with their Ultrabooks as well. For example, GPS that locks onto 12 satellites instantly indoors, and I'll show you that now. First, we're going to turn off Wi-Fi, so you know it's not getting any Wi-Fi assistance whatsoever. Wi-Fi is off. Now we're going to look at our GPS test application. And there it is. Just that quick. That's excellent, isn't it? And again, Wi-Fi is turned off, so it's not doing any Wi-Fi triangulation there. And we'll turn our Wi-Fi back on. And while we're at it, you can see we've got pretty much the standard Jelly Bean interface here with some enhancements from Asus. You can get to full settings by tapping here, but we have the quick access to wireless over right here, a variety of settings, switching between Echo mode, balanced, and high performance mode, Bluetooth turning on. And right here, you see this? They've got what they call their Sonic Master Audio, that little picture of speakers there. No matter where you are, you've got instant access to a bunch of different audio profiles right here. And it actually does make a difference. It ships by default with all sound enhancements turned off. And we turned on movie mode for watching movies, and they sound a lot louder and a lot fuller and a lot better. And you can see we have it in gaming mode right now because, well, I was just playing a game. So it really helps. Put it back in movie mode for now, but nice. And I like the fact that you can get to it from anywhere and quickly switch your profile, so you don't have to remember to do that before you get into an application. And while we're discussing the speakers, let's take a look at those. They are on the back, and that's another thing that Asus has addressed. They used to have what they called stereo speakers, but, well, it was really two speakers right next to each other in one hole in some models. That wasn't very effective. Here we have a stereo speaker right here. Stereo speaker right here, pretty loud slot. This gets loud enough, especially if you turn on one of the enhanced sound profiles, that the whole back vibrates. It's pretty amazing. So it's pretty loud, it's pretty full, certainly for a 10-inch tablet. And while we're looking around, you can see, for your money, what are you getting? You're getting matte plastic. Wow, that's exciting. This is the blue color right here. It's neither ugly nor beautiful looking. It's pretty neutral in my opinion. This is also available in fuchsia pink and in white. So you got a couple of color options here. Down on the bottom, you'll notice no ports whatsoever. Unlike other Asus Transformer models, notice there's no transformer in the name here. This does not plug into an optional keyboard dock. So this tablet is also for you folks who really don't want that optional keyboard dock functionality. You just really want a tablet. You don't want to turn it into a clamshell laptop style device. Of course, you can use Bluetooth keyboards with this. You could even use a USB keyboard if you wanted to. On the side here, this is our micro SD card slot. It is compatible with SDXC cards. In fact, we have an SDXC card in this right now, just so you can see, because we're going to use it later. That's one of the SanDisk ones. You can tell from that little color pattern right there, 64 gig card. And up here we have the micro HDMI port, and we have the micro USB port. And this is where your charger is going to plug into, since there's no transformer style multi-function 30-pin dock connector on the bottom. We don't have that kind of connection anymore. It's just standard micro USB. And in fact, that's the same thing that works with the Nexus 7, also with the iPad. And here's what your charger looks like, the typical little Asus black block. USB cable plugs in here. Other end's the micro USB to plug into the tablet. On the back, by the way, we have a 5-megapixel camera, pretty mediocre in quality. It's not so much the sharpness that's an issue, but exposure is not very good. It doesn't handle high contrast settings. You get kind of milky light colors with it. Front camera is 1.2 megapixels, and that one's pretty decent. It's certainly good enough for something like Skype or Google Video Chat. Here's our headphone jack right there, 3.5 millimeter audio, and we have our volume controls right here. Easy to operate the controls, unlike the TF300 and the TF700, where they tried to make it so darn skinny and really just very narrow at the front end here. This has a steeper curve to it, so it's much easier to use these controls. And the power button is right up here on the top edge. The tablet weighs 580 grams, which is just under 1.3 pounds, so also very light, 9.9 millimeters thin, extremely thin tablet. So it may be, relatively speaking, inexpensive, but that doesn't mean you get a chunky, ugly, heavy thing here. By no means is it that. It's very svelte, it's very light. Build quality is pretty good. The polycarbonate back certainly feels pretty tough. A little bit of creak along the bottom edge, I notice, if I'm poking right around here, but nothing that I'm going to complain about. And back flex is just very, very, very minimal. So it's a lot less than the Galaxy Note 10.1. I know some of you are very sensitive to any plastic flex, so you're not going to get much here. Of course, this is so darn thin, it's probably going to be stiffened up by the circuit board that's directly below it. Another thing Asus seems to have addressed is they used to use slow internal storage, and I haven't seen any problems relating to that here. No, please wait when I'm using the web browser with multiple tabs open or anything like that. So performance has been rock solid, and we've got pretty much just generic Android Jelly Bean here, not much enhancement whatsoever. Asus adds their usual applications that I find quite useful, and we can take a look at what's on here. You can see we've got their app locker, we've got their app backup, handy for those of you particularly who like to root and then back up all your applications. We've got their Audio Wizard application. We have their own kind of photo viewer. That's something that really is mostly for use with camera photos. It helps you organize them by date and even by geolocation, but you can use it as your video player if you want as well. We've got their parental lock here. My Library Lite, that's an ebook reader. I don't know why they call it the Lite version. They also have their Supernote app, and they call that the Lite version. I haven't noticed any difference between it and the regular versions you get on the Transformer tablets, but my Book Lite is a ebook reader, and it also does PDF. So you can see here we have an EPUB book, and this is a PDF that it's picked up off of my micro SD XE card. Works just fine. We'll look at a book first. Obviously, it supports side loading since it's just picking up PDFs off my card, and it looks pretty good, works pretty good. You can put Kindle on here, you can put Nook on here, you can put whatever you want on here in terms of ebook reading, but this one's built in for those of you who want something to get started with, and it works fine. And display resolution here is your standard 1280 by 800 pixels. It's pretty much common for Android tablets except for the high-end ones like the Nexus 10 that has a super high-resolution display. So when I'm reading a book, to be honest, it looks just fine and sharp enough to my eyes. You tend to hold the tablet pretty close to you, so you're not getting so much of a benefit of the high DPI unless you're looking at smaller text. Now, if you look at something like Zinio, the magazine reader, where it uses very tiny type to reproduce magazine layout pages, then that's where you'll be wishing you might have a higher resolution display. And we'll take a look at the PDF rendering now. Of course, you can also download Adobe Reader if you want. That's free. But as a built-in solution, there it is. It works. It gets the job done. The display certainly does have wide viewing angles. Colors are pleasing. Relatively speaking, they're fairly neutral. Not super zingy vibrant, but really pleasing enough. I enjoy watching videos on this. And again, for the price point, I'm not going to complain. And for those of you who are not familiar with Asus tablets and their bundled software, again, here's our Supernote Lite. And it has tutorials to show you how to use it. There's my really exciting note that I've done. Now, this is just a capacitive display, no digital pen here. So if you want to write notes, you have to use a capacitive stylus, which I find, kind of torturous. It's not really very precise. But you can do things like embed photos in here, rearrange stuff, draw, diagram. Again, as a bundled solution, you really can't complain. It's pretty full featured. And you can type text in here as well. They also bundle Tegra Zone, so you can check out some of the Tegra Zone games. We have Press Reader on here for reading magazines. Zinio is pre-installed as well. As I mentioned, that's a magazine reader. Beautiful magazine page reproduction going on there. But again, for Zinio, I would still like to have even a higher resolution display if I could, but it's certainly readable and usable. And all the standard Google applications are here. Google Play Books, Google Play Videos, Google Maps is on board. Obviously, it works with that built-in GPS just fine. And the interface you can see is pretty much just standard Android. We have our apps right here, and we have our widgets. And the widget selection is not hugely enhanced by Asus. Here we have a lot of the standard Google ones, and we've got a couple of their clocks, like the one we have running on the home page right now. We've got the MyZine, we've got charging status. In terms of speed, this one is pretty darn fast. Certainly this is head and shoulders faster than TI OMAP dual-core CPU tablets that are out there, and that includes the Kindle Fire 8.9, which would be one of its closest competitors, being a larger than 7-inch tablet and being $299 and fairly capable. Of course, with the Kindle Fire, you don't get all the features here. You don't get things like the GPS functionality and all that, but you do get a higher resolution display. And size-wise, here it is with the Kindle Fire 8.9 right in front. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit smaller. Kindle Fire does have a sharper display. Kindle Fire is not nearly as fast and responsive. And of course, isn't a full Android tablet. Like I said, you don't get some of the features that you do, and you don't get access to the Google Play Store on a Kindle Fire. When it comes to benchmarks, it scored 3309 on Quadrant. The fastest smartphones right now are scoring at 5,03309. Is pretty similar to what you're going to get on the Nexus 7, which does have also a gig of RAM and pretty much the same CPU inside. For Antutu, we scored 12,421, a very respectable score. For GL Benchmark 2.5, the off-screen Egypt test, and on-screen we got 53 frames per second, on-screen 34 frames off-screen. SunSpider was a zippy 1320, and Geekbench 2 was a 1261, which came in just behind the Nexus 7, surprisingly. Honestly, in terms of speed and performance, I have no complaints here. I've been playing a lot of demanding 3D games, and we'll show you some of those. Plays just fine. Today's tablets are a lot like today's computers. We all chase after the highest specs, but honest to God, the mid-range model really is more than most of us need. I mean, unless you know that you've actually managed to bog down a tablet and you need something that is the fastest on the market, this guy is just fine for 3D gaming. It'll still be fine for 3D gaming next year. Web browsing is good on it. Again, for the price point, $299, you can't beat it, and it will beat out certainly the NVIDIA old Tegra 2 tablets that you might have that you bought a couple of years ago, or you can find used on the marketplace. It's better than the TI OMAP tablets that are out there. The only thing that's going to beat it are faster Tegra 3s, and Samsung's quad-core Exynos is very, very fast. And their latest cutting-edge Exynos dual-core is also very fast, too. Again, pretty good stuff. And also for the money, we're thrilled that you get USB host. Now that's going to involve having to use a little USB host dongle adapter, not in the box. You're going to have to come up with one of your own. We're using the one that came with our Motorola Zoom, or it was actually sold for the Motorola Zoom. You can find these in electronic stores like Fry's. You can order them online. We're going to plug in some stuff so you see how it works. Now speaking of that USB port, we have a USB on-the-go cable here. This is the one that I bought from my Motorola Zoom, but you can get these at a variety of consumer electronics stores. We're going to plug in a flash drive. Now we also tested this with NTFS external self-powered hard drives like Western Digital Passport, and it worked just fine yesterday, and today it's not giving it enough power to power up the drives. That's pretty weird. So if you have external plug-in power hard drives, that is ones with their own power supply or an optical drive, that works just fine. But we're going to do this flash drive right here. And it says external storage inserted. You can tap here, and then there it is. It just shows right up under USB disk 1. And we've got some music on here. And it's playing right off the flash drive. Not bad sound either. Speaking of sound, we can switch over to the music profile. not bad. And next we're going to test it with the Xbox wired controller for PCs. You can see we have a whole lot of wire here. This is the USB version. This is not the wireless Xbox 360 console version. This one meant for PCs. And we're going to test out our beloved Grand Theft Auto 3, which supports the controller nicely. So here we are, driving in our usual evil way in Grand Theft Auto, using the controller. A lot nicer than using the on-screen controls. Button mapping is always a little bit weird with Grand Theft Auto. You never know what buttons are going to work. But there is a button for everything that you need. And here we are in Dead Trigger, a free game that is Tegra Zone game. So you got enhancements for the Tegra 3, like water reflections here. See the particles that are flying. So you're getting a little bit better of experience over here. It's playing just fine. Good performance. So for your $299, you're definitely getting enough performance to play today's demanding games. Another neat thing is this comes with Android Jelly Bean, which usually just comes with Google Chrome, and that's it. We have the standard Android WebKit browser here as well. I like that because, well, it's a bit faster sometimes than Chrome is, and also because you can get Adobe Flash working for this. Chrome does not support Adobe Flash, but here I've sideloaded Adobe Flash. If you go hunt for it on Adobe's website, you can actually find it, turn on installation of non-market apps, and then run that installer. So we're here on Congregate so we can get going with some games that are Flash-based. Never played this before, but we'll give it a try just to demo this. And here we are playing our Flash game, running just fine. So yes, you can sideload Flash Player if you know how to do that. Again, just go to Adobe's website, search for Android Flash Player, and download it. Put it on here. I'll turn on installation of non-market apps, and then run that Android Flash installer that you downloaded. Asus claims 8.5 hours on a charge from the 19 watt per hour battery, and we're still putting this through battery tests, but so far it's lasting about as long as any other 10-inch Tegra 3 Android tablet that I've used, which is to say I have to charge it every other day with moderate use. We've done some video rundown tests on this, and right now I'm managing about 7.5 hours for video rundown tests. Now, what don't you get for the $299 budget price? Right now, there's no 32 gig storage option. That's not a huge deal to me because you can use micro SD cards with this. There's no Gorilla Glass, just regular hardened soda glass, and there is no Office Suite pre-installed. So you can download Office Viewers for free on Google Play Store. There's a couple of editors that are even free, and none of the suites generally cost more than $25 if you need that. But keep that in mind. That's something you're going to have to add on yourself. Honestly, for the price, unless you have to have the very best, the very fastest possible CPU, and this is still one of the faster tablets out there, and unless you really have to have that super high-res display, for the middle of the road, folks, this is a great bargain. At 10.1 inches IPS display, Tegra 4, wow, it's just really nice. No complaints, no gotchas so far. So that's the Asus MeMO Pad 10-inch, the smart model, ME301T, for those of you who need that model number. And definitely a tablet I can recommend. Yeah, it's thin, it's sexy, it's light. Not super sexy, though. I mean, we're talking about plastic build and stuff like that. But solidly put together, great specs. Definitely recommend it. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Visit our website for the full review. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that like button, too.